Welcome back class 11th for your first lesson Portrait of a Lady.
And this story portrays the figure of writer's grandmother, in which the writer describes the details of the grandmother and his feelings and the relation with his grandmother. So by the time we have studied the general characteristics of grandmother, how was she, what was her daily routine, where do they live? As you know, they live in the village. The parents of the narrator had gone to a city because his father was transferred there, and the writer and the grandmother was staying back in the village home where they were going to school together, uh, feeding dogs with the stale chapatis. The grandmother was going to temple, whereas the writer or the narrator was going to school attached to the temple. So this was the daily routine, means they were closely associated to each other. The grandmother was a religious person, always telling the prayers and trying to teach the same prayer to her grandson, who is Khushwant Singh, or the narrator. Now we go ahead. When my parents were comfortably settled in the city, they sent for us. That was a turning point in our friendship. Although we shared the same room, my grandmother no longer came to school with me. I used to go to an English school in a motor bus. There were no dogs in the streets, and she took to feeding sparrows in the courtyard of a house, city house. So now the parents were finally settled comfortably in the city. Means the father was transferred to the city where he had taken accommodation, where he was now comfortably accommodated, and he sent for means called, sent someone to call both grand so the mother and the grandson to city. वापस किसी को भेजा और दोनों grandson and the grandmother went to the city with the parents of the writer. What a turning point in our friendship. That was a turning point. Turning point means a place from where the things totally get changed. Turning point means something gets changed completely. So this was a turning point in our friendship. The friendship that the narrator was enjoying at village with his the grandmother was no longer the same. Their relationship has got some turning point, a big change. Although we shared the same room, my grandmother no longer came to school with me. Though the grandson and the grandmother was living in the same room, उसी room में रहते थे. They shared the same room. They live in the same room. I used to go to English school in a motor bus. So now there was no more like dropping the child to the school, going on foot, and on the way there were dogs and other things. It was not like so, because the writer had been means arranged a bus to go to school by his parents. There were no dogs in the streets, and she took to feeding sparrows in the courtyard of our city house. So because it was a city, she couldn't go out in the street. There was no dog in the streets whom the grandmother could feed. कोई ऐसा dog भी नहीं था जिसे जाके वो feed करे. So she had started feeding sparrows. Sparrow, you know sparrows, a kind of bird, small bird. It is in our surrounding. Everywhere you can see the sparrows. Sparrows को feeding. Feeding is to give food in the courtyard. Courtyard क्या होता है? Courtyard is the open space in front of a house. घर होता है, घर के आगे अगर क्या है, open space है, it is called courtyard. और घर के पीछे अगर open space है, it is called backyard. So courtyard, backyard. There were no dogs in the streets, and she took to feeding, means she started feeding, means giving food, giving grains to sparrows in the courtyard of our city house. As the years rolled by, we saw less of each other, for sometime she continued to wake me up and get me ready for school. When I came back, she would ask me the teaching, what the teachers had taught me. I would tell her English words and little things of Western science and learning, the law of gravity, Archimedes' principles, and world being round, etc. This made her uh, this made her unhappy. She could not help me with my lessons. She did not believe in the things they taught at the English school and was distressed that there was no teaching about God and scriptures. One day I announced that we were being given music lessons. She was very disturbed. To her, music had lewd association. It was the monopoly of harlots and beggars and not meant for gentle folk. She said nothing, but but her silence meant disapproval. She had not talked to me after that. So this was the second paragraph where she says that as the years rolled by, we saw of each other. So up to here we have already seen that what changes taking place in the relationship of the grandson and the grandmother, how the grandmother is spending her day that was quite different from the day she used to spend at her village home. So as the years rolled by means passed by, as the years went on, passed by, we saw less each other, means we have less opportunity to meet because he was growing up, going to the schools, busy all the time in the schoolwork. So there was no much frequent meeting between grandson and the granddaughter. For some time she continued to wake me up and get me ready for the school. For some time it was the duty of the grandmother. The grandmother on her own used to wake me up. मुझे उठाती थी सुबह, get me ready for school. And when I came back, means in the beginning भी शुरुआत में ऐसा करती थी. She used to wake me up and she used to help me to go to school, means to prepare my things. When I came back, she would ask me what the teacher had taught me. So every day after returning from school, she used to inquire. वो inquire करती थी what my teacher had taught me on that day. I would tell her English words and little things of Western science and learning the law of gravity, Archimedes' principle, the world being round, etc. So on her enquiry, I used to report her what means the narrator used to report her what he had learned in the school on that day, like some English words, kuch English word, a little things of Western science, the science classes and the topics of science like law of gravity, Archimedes principle, world being round. ऐसी बातें मैं दादी को बताता था कि I have learned these English words, I have learned in science like law of gravity, Archimedes principle, the world being round, etc. This made her unhappy. On getting this, when the grandmother used to get this thing that I am learning such and such thing, she was not happy by my learning. She could not help me with my lessons because these things were quite new to her and she was not able to help me in doing my work in such topics like in English or in science. She did not believe in things they taught at the English school and was distressed that there was no teaching about God and the scriptures. So she did not believe in the things because she had not learned such things. She had not learned the Western science, English and all such subject. So she didn't believe on the teaching of so called English schools. In English school की teaching पर दादी को क्या नहीं था? She was not believing on these school's teachings and was distressed. Distressed means disappointed, was not happy that there was no teaching about God and the scriptures. और वो इस बात से भी परेशान थी कि यहाँ क्या नहीं है, न गॉड की टीचिंग है और न scriptures means religious books, religious teaching, and was distressed that there was no teaching about God and the scriptures. One day I announced that we were being given music lessons. One day when I told her that the school is going to give them music lessons, music का lesson हमें आज से सिखाया जाएगा. I announced means I told to my grandmother that tomorrow onwards or we will be given music as a subject. She was very disturbed. It was a matter of great concern for her. She was very much unhappy. To her, music had a lewd association. It was the monopoly of harlots and the beggars and not meant for gentlefolk. To her, music had lewd association. Lewd क्या होता है? What is lewd? Lewd is something that belongs to our sexual aspirations, our sexual desires. Lewd, libido, lewd, and such sort of things that cause a sense, a sensation like sexual sensation in us. It called the music has an association, means the music is related with the things belongs to the lewd, libido, lewd, libido, or like the desire belonging to sexual intercourse and all that is called lewd association. So my grandmother believes that the music has a lewd association, has some sexual desire intercourse, means that sexual intercourse and such sort of desire belonging to the music. आपको पता है ना, म्यूजिक जो सेंट होते हैं, जो महात्मा होते हैं, जो बड़े रिलीजियस होते हैं, they keep themselves away from the music because the music causes sensation in our mind and that sensation may have some worldly relations, हमें attract करता है worldly relationship से. So the grandmother was unhappy that at such an state the school is teaching music to the student, to its students. So she was not happy. It was the monopoly of harlots and beggars. The belief of my grandmother, the belief of narrator's grandmother was that the music is the monopoly. Monopoly means the only right of playing music and using music is of harlots. Harlots means prostitutes, one who serves his or her body to please others, means that is again belonging to sex. So harlots and beggars are meant for the music, not the gentle folk. Gentle folk means gentle people, educated people. Only the people who have a business in begging, who are engaged in begging and prostitution should be given a music class. This was the belief of grandmother. So it was the monopoly of harlots and the beggars and not meant for gentle folk. She said nothing, but her silence meant disapproval. After that, she didn't say anything, but she was silent, and her silence, जब वो चुपचाप थी, her silence meant disapproval. Disapproval means she didn't approve my music classes, music lessons. She was not happy by teaching music to the writer. She really talked after that. So means after that news that the writer was being given the music classes, she was not much happy with this, and she didn't talk anything with him. When I went to the university, I was given a room of my own. The common link of friendship was snapped. My grandmother accepted her seclusion with resignation. She rarely left her spinning wheel to talk to anyone. From sunrise to sunshine, from sunrise to sunset, she sat by her wheel, spinning and reciting prayers. Only in the afternoon she relaxed for a while to feed the sparrows. While she sat in the veranda, breaking the bread into the little bits, hundreds of little birds collected round her, creating a veritable, a veritable bedlam of chirpings. Some came and perched on her legs, others on her shoulders. Some even sat on her head. She smiled but never shooed them away. It used to be the happiest half an hour of the day for her. So the writer now changing the means the you will feel you will feel a change in the relationship of the grandmother with her the means the grandson. So up to here it was almost means very close to the relationship they had in the village, but now it is now one more change. When I went up to university, so the writer is going to university for his further study after doing his school. I was given a room of my own. I was grown up. I had to study for late hours. So the writer was given a separate room. Means the common link of friendship was snapped. Snapped means cut. Common link. That room was the common link. Means my grandmother and I used to share the same room. And that room was the common link between me and my grandmother. So that room was also cut because the writer was given a separate room. My grandmother accepted her seclusion with resignation. Accepted means she admitted. She accepted her seclusion. Seclusion means loneliness with resignation, means without being in the company of people. She was now all alone. She has accepted that loneliness as seclusion, means solitude for her. She has accepted to stay all alone in that room that was given to her by my parents. She rarely left her spinning wheel to talk to anyone. Rarely means rarely, barely, hardly says very less, almost equal to not. She didn't leave her spinning wheel. Spinning wheel means in the old time the people used to use a spinning wheel to make threads. थ्रेड होता है ना धागे वगैरह बुनने के लिए, चरखा काटने के लिए बोलते हैं स्पिनिंग व्हील. She rarely left means she didn't leave that spinning wheel to talk to anyone. She was always busy in that spinning wheel. From sunrise to sunset she sat by the wheel spinning and reciting prayers. From sunrise to sunset, from the morning to the evening, down to dusk, she was busy in spinning, in that wheel spinning and reciting prayers. This was the only routine of the grandmother, that spinning wheel and reciting prayers. Only in the afternoon she relaxed for a while to feed the sparrows. In the afternoon she took a rest, and during that period she used to go to veranda, घर के वरांडे में जाके she used to feed the sparrows. Sparrow जो birds थे उनको feed करती थी. While she sat in the veranda breaking the bread into little bits, hundreds of little birds collected round her. When she sat in the veranda में बैठती थी, breaking the bread into little bits, bits means pieces, little pieces में उसे तोड़ती थी. Hundred of little birds collected around her. जो hundred of sparrows थी, they used to get collected close to her in hundreds. A veritable bedlam of chopping. A veritable bedlam. A veritable means of different type. Bedlam means a different type of noise. A noise of choppings. A different sort of mix means the noise that you cannot understand. When so many sounds mix together and make a new sound. Means when if suppose this class has 10 students and these 10 students all are talking and somebody is listening all this from the outside your door or the window. So he can listen the sound, he can listen the voices, but cannot understand it. So it is called bedlam. So veritable bedlam of chirpings. Chirping is the sound of birds. So a veritable bedlam of chirpings was created by these hundreds of sparrows. Some came and perched on her legs. Some of the birds, perched means landed on her legs. ऐसे उड़ करके कहाँ पे लैंड होते थे? उसके लेग्स पे. And the others on her shoulders. कुछ कहाँ पर्च कर जाते थे उसके shoulders में, कुछ कंधे में बैठ गए, कुछ legs में बैठ गए. Some even sat on her head. कुछ तो यहाँ तक थे birds. They used to go to sit on her head. She smiled but never shooed them away. The grandmother smiled but never shooed them away, chased them away. Shoot means to chase something or someone away. उनको भगाती नहीं थी. It used to be the happiest half hour of the day for her. And throughout the day when she was busy in spinning wheel and telling prayers, this particular time of feeding sparrow would be the happiest half hour. ये जो half hour था, आधा घंटा था, ये सबसे happiest था grandmother का. So this is all for now. We will have a final part of the story on the next session. Till then, you do the homework again, then revising it. This time you will make a summary of the story you have learned so far. Means the summary in the short and brief in your own words in 2 or 3 pages. Means you will write the 2 pages at least. Means around 200 words. You will write 200 words as a summary. At the same time, you will also see the dictionary for hard words. Thank you for now.